Captain Eliza Winters stared at the shimmering wall of energy that stretched across the view screen, the galactic barrier. For centuries, it had been the edge of known space, the impassable boundary that kept every intelligent species trapped within the Milky Way. No probe had ever returned from it. No signal had ever penetrated it. Until now, perhaps. "Status report," she said, her voice steady despite the tension that filled the bridge of the USS Horizon. First Officer Marcus Powell looked up from his console. "All systems nominal, Captain. Phase shift drive is at 98% capacity." Eliza nodded. Her ship was humanity's finest achievement, the culmination of 50 years of research since first contact with alien civilizations. The sleek, arrowhead-shaped vessel housed technology that no single species had developed alone. Its hull contained elements from 17 different worlds. Its engines were based on theories from 8 different scientific traditions. And at its heart was the phase shift drive, humanity's unique contribution. "Dr. Rodriguez, your assessment?" she asked, turning to the slim man hunched over the science station. Alan Rodriguez pushed his glasses up his nose, a curiously old-fashioned gesture on a ship full of neural interfaces and holographic displays. "The barrier's energy patterns match our simulations, Captain. If there was ever a time to try, it's now." From the communication station, Officer Natalie Grant spoke up. "Captain, we're receiving another message from the Galactic Council. They're ordering us to turn back." Immediately, Eliza wasn't surprised. The 7 elder species that dominated the Council had all tried to cross the barrier in their long histories. All had failed. All had lost ships, crew, and eventually hope. When humanity suggested a new approach, they had been patronizing at first, then concerned, and now openly hostile. "Remind the Council that we're in unclaimed space," Eliza replied, "and that this mission was approved by Earth Command." "They're saying it again, Captain," Natalie continued, her hand pressed to her earpiece. "The old warning. The barrier was not built to keep us in." A silence fell over the bridge. Everyone had heard the ancient warning, passed down through countless alien cultures. Some believed the barrier was natural. Others thought it was constructed by some long-vanished civilization. But all the stories agreed on one thing: crossing it would bring disaster. Dr. Kevin Wright, the ship's xenobiologist, cleared his throat. "Captain, I've studied every cultural reference to the barrier. The warnings are consistent across species with no historical contact. That suggests fear is universal, Doctor," Eliza cut in. "And that story spread even across vast distances." She stood up from her command chair and walked to the front of the bridge where the barrier filled the view screen like a vast rippling curtain of light. Beyond it lay, what? New galaxies? New civilizations? Or something else entirely? "Chief, Engineer Kelly, is the phase shift ready for full deployment?" she asked over the comm. Samantha Kelly's voice came back instantly from engineering. "Ready and eager, Captain. This baby wants to run." Eliza smiled. Kelly had spent 3 years perfecting the phase shift drive, working with theoretical models that most alien scientists dismissed as impossible. But humans had always excelled at making the impossible happen. "Security status?" she asked. "All stations secured for barrier approach," replied Security Chief Lisa Bennett from her post by the bridge entrance. "Weapon systems are primed, but offline as agreed with the Council." Eliza returned to her chair and pressed the shipwide communication button. "All crew, this is Captain Winters. In 5 minutes we will attempt what no known species has ever accomplished: crossing the galactic barrier. The phase shift drive should allow us to temporarily exist between states of matter, passing through the energy field without direct interaction." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I won't pretend there's no risk. We're facing the unknown in its purest form. But that's what humanity has always done best. Each of you volunteered for this mission knowing it might be one way. Whatever happens next, I'm honored to serve with you all. Winters out." As she released the button, Marcus leaned closer. "Nice speech. Think it worked?" "On the crew or on me?" she asked with a slight smile. "Both." Eliza shrugged. Guess we'll find out. The minutes ticked by as final preparations were made. Across the ship, 200 crew members secured equipment, ran final checks, or simply sat in silent contemplation. Some prayed, others recorded final messages for families back home. A few slept, grabbing rest before the unknown that lay ahead. On the bridge, linguist Peter Hoffman worked frantically at a console. Captain, I've been analyzing the warning message from the Council. There's something odd about the phrasing in the original alien languages. Odd how? Eliza asked. It's not just the barrier wasn't built to keep us in. The original phrase has a different emphasis. It's more like, the barrier was built to keep them out. Before Eliza could respond, the ship's sensors blared a warning. Energy spike in the barrier, called out Rodriguez. It's reacting to our presence. The shimmering wall before them began to pulse, sending waves of light cascading across its surface. The ship trembled slightly. Distance to barrier? Eliza demanded. 300,000 kilometers, Marcus replied. 2 minutes to contact point. All hands. Prepare for phase shift, Eliza ordered. Dr. Rodriguez, begin the sequence. Rodriguez's fingers flew across his console. Phase shift. Drive powering up. Quantum field generators online. Beginning subspace bubble formation. Around the ship, a faint blue glow began to appear as the revolutionary drive created a field that would, theoretically, allow the horizon to exist partially out of normal space-time, slipping between the energy patterns of the barrier. 1 minute to contact, Marcus announced. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Captain, the barrier is changing, Rodriguez shouted. It's adapting somehow. On the view screen, the smooth wall of energy was now churning violently, sending out tendrils like solar flares. One lashed toward the ship, crackling with power. Evasive maneuvers, Eliza ordered. The helmsman tried to veer away, but the tendril seemed to follow them, stretching impossibly across space. It's locked onto us, Rodriguez said in disbelief. That's impossible. It's acting with purpose. Phase shift at full power, Samantha Kelly reported from engineering, her voice tense. Captain, we need to decide now. Abort or proceed. The bore. Tendril of energy reached toward them, now just seconds from impact. Around Eliza, the bridge crew looked to her, awaiting the word that would determine their fate. Eliza thought of Earth, of humanity's long journey to the stars, of all the alien races who said this moment was impossible. She thought of the warnings, and the fears and the unknown that waited beyond. Then she did what humans had always done best. She leapt into the darkness. Proceed, she ordered firmly. Full power to the phase shift drive. Take us through. The blue glow around the ship intensified until it was almost blinding. The tendril of barrier energy struck the field and seemed to pass through it, causing monitors to flicker but leaving the ship intact. Barrier contact in 3, 2, 1. Marcus counted down. The horizon plunged into the wall of light. The ship shuddered violently. On the bridge, consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Crew members were thrown from their stations. Eliza clung to her chair as the world seemed to turn inside out around her. Her vision blurred, showing impossible colors and shapes. Her ears filled with a sound like the ocean and 1,000 whispers. Then, suddenly silence. When she blinked her eyes open, the view screen showed only stars. Different stars, in patterns no human had ever seen before. Status report, she managed, her voice hoarse. Marcus pulled himself up from the floor, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. We're through, Captain. We've crossed the galactic barrier. As the crew slowly recovered, checking systems and treating injuries, Eliza stared at the unknown stars. They had done it. Humanity had shattered a boundary that had contained intelligent life for millions of years, and now they had to face whatever waited in the uncharted space beyond. 3 days had passed since the USS Horizon crossed the galactic barrier. The damage was worse than Captain Eliza Winters had initially feared. Life support systems operated at 60% capacity. The main engines were offline, leaving only maneuvering thrusters. And the revolutionary phase shift drive, the technology that had allowed them to pass through the barrier, was completely dead. "Can we fix it?" Eliza asked, standing in the ruins of engineering. Cables hung from the ceiling. Panels lay torn from walls. The once gleaming phase shift core now stood dark and lifeless. Chief Engineer Samantha Kelly wiped grease from her face, leaving a darker smear. "Maybe. Eventually. The barrier crossing burned out most of the quantum field generators. We'd need to rebuild them from scratch." "With what?" Dr. Alan Rodriguez asked, examining a melted circuit board. "We didn't exactly bring spare parts for experimental technology." Eliza frowned. The scientist was right. They had prepared for many emergencies, but not for such complete system failure. Without the phase shift drive, they couldn't return through the barrier. They might be permanently stranded in this uncharted region of space. "Focus on essential systems first," she ordered. "Life support, communications, sensors. We need to know what's out here." As if in answer to her words, the ship's intercom crackled. "Captain to the bridge," First Officer Marcus Powell's voice called urgently. "We've found something." When Eliza reached the bridge, she found the crew gathered around the main view screen. On it, floating against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars, was a massive structure. It looked like a wheel with spokes running from its center, each one at least 5 miles long. The entire station rotated slowly, creating artificial gravity within its vast circular rim. "Is it alien?" she asked, though the answer seemed obvious. "Definitely not human design," Marcus confirmed, "and not matching any known species from our galaxy." Dr. Kevin Wright, the xenobiologist, couldn't take his eyes off the screen. "Captain, this is impossible. No species has ever crossed the barrier before us. At least that's what we were told." "Distance?" Eliza asked. "About 6 hours at our current maximum speed," replied the helmsman. "Life signs?" Security Chief Lisa Bennett checked her readings. "Difficult to tell at this range, but the station appears to have active power systems. I'm detecting atmosphere within the habitable sections." Eliza considered their options. Their ship was damaged. They had limited resources. The smart choice might be to avoid contact, to focus on repairs before engaging with unknown entities. But they had come to explore, to discover what lay beyond the barrier. And their situation was desperate. "Set course for the station," she ordered. "Yellow alert. I want everyone at their stations and ready for anything." As the horizon approached the giant structure, more details became visible. The station was ancient, its hull pitted from millions of years of micrometeor impacts. But lights glowed along its curved surface, and several smaller craft moved around it, clearly maintained and operational. "Captain, Communications Officer," Natalie Grant called out. "I'm detecting signals from the station. They're unusual, not standard radio or subspace frequencies. More like mathematical patterns." Linguist Peter Hoffman moved to her station. "Let me see." He studied the incoming data, his brow furrowed. "It's not random. These are prime number sequences, followed by simple mathematical equations. Classical first contact protocol. They're trying to communicate," Eliza realized. "Can you respond using the same method?" "I think so," Peter said, already typing commands. "I'll start with the next numbers in their sequences, then add our own mathematical patterns." For several tense minutes the exchange continued, mathematical codes flowing back and forth between the human ship and the mysterious station. Gradually the patterns grew more complex, establishing a foundation for basic communication. "They're sending visual data now," Peter announced. A series of images appeared on a secondary screen, simple pictures showing geometric shapes, then stars, then what appeared to be simplified representations of living beings. "They look like..." Dr. Wright leaned closer to the screen, his eyes wide. "Captain, they appear to be crystalline life forms. Silicon-based rather than carbon-based like us." The images continued, showing the station, the surrounding space, and finally a representation of the horizon itself. "They know we're here," Marcus said unnecessarily. Well, we weren't exactly being subtle, Eliza replied. Can we send images back? Peter nodded. System is ready. Send them images of humans, our ship, peaceful contact scenarios, Eliza ordered. Make it clear we come as explorers, not conquerors. As they transmitted the visual data, one of the smaller craft detached from the station and began moving toward, the horizon. They're approaching, Lisa warned, her hand hovering near the weapons controls. Vessel is approximately 1/4 our size. No obvious weapon signatures, but their technology is unknown to us. Maintain yellow alert, Eliza said. But power weapons down. We don't want to appear threatening. The alien craft stopped 500 meters from the horizon. It was smooth and crystalline, with no visible engines or external features. We're receiving a new transmission, Natalie announced. It's different, more complex patterns. Peter studied the incoming data with growing excitement. Captain, I think they're trying to establish a translation matrix. They're connecting mathematical concepts to linguistic ones. Can our computers handle that? Eliza asked. With some modifications, he replied, already working on his console. Give me 10 minutes. It took 15, but when he finished, the computer produced a rough translation of the alien communication. The voice was artificial and flat, but the words were clear enough. Unknown vessel, you have crossed the forbidden boundary. This action was believed impossible. Identify yourselves and explain your passage. Eliza took a deep breath. Humanity's first contact with life from beyond the galactic barrier. This is Captain Eliza Winters of the Earthship Horizon. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and peaceful exchange. We cross the barrier using technology of our own design. There was a pause before the reply came. Your claim is difficult to accept. No species has crossed the boundary in 7 million cycles. The Vareth Council requests direct communication with your leaders. Vareth, Dr. Wright whispered. They have a name. I am authorized to speak for Earth, Eliza responded. We request permission to approach your station for repairs and peaceful exchange of information. Another pause, longer this time. The crew waited tensely, aware of how vulnerable their damaged ship was. Finally, permission granted, Earth vessel. Follow the guide beam to docking port 17. Your biological structure is unknown to us. Prepare data on your environmental and medical requirements. A soft blue light appeared, pointing the way to the station. Should we trust them? Marcus asked quietly. Eliza considered this. We don't have many options. Our ship is damaged and we're alone out here. Besides, she added with a slight smile, this is why we came, isn't it? To discover the unknown. As the horizon followed the guide beam toward the massive alien station, Dr. Wright approached the captain. There's something else, Captain, something important. When they said 7 million cycles, they were likely referring to their measurement of time. But even if a cycle is just 1 Earth year, that means someone else crossed the barrier 7 million years ago. Eliza finished for him. And these Vareth have been waiting out here ever since. The implications hung in the air as the human ship drifted closer to the ancient station. What had happened 7 million years ago? Who had crossed before them? And most importantly, why had the Vareth called it the forbidden boundary? As the horizon approached the docking port, crystalline figures could be seen waiting inside the station. Humanity's first meeting with intelligent life from beyond the galactic barrier was about to begin, and with it, perhaps, answers to questions no one in the Milky Way had ever thought to ask. The airlock hissed open, revealing 3 crystalline beings. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies composed of geometric shapes that caught and refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. Where humans would have faces, they had smooth surfaces with 5 small glowing spots arranged in a circular pattern. Captain Eliza Winters led the small delegation from the horizon. Behind her stood Dr. Kevin Wright, eager to study these silicon-based life forms, and linguist Peter Hoffman, who carried a portable translator device based on their earlier communications. I am Captain Winters of Earth, she said, keeping her hands visible at her sides. We thank you for allowing us to dock. The central Vareth figure shifted, crystal surfaces moving like liquid despite their solid appearance. The translator device in Peter's hand processed the mathematical signals. They emitted. I am Coordinator Lith of the Vareth Council. The crystalline being's translated voice emerged from the device. Your arrival disturbs patterns established for millions of cycles. We apologize for any disruption, Eliza said. Our ship was damaged crossing the barrier. We seek repairs and peaceful exchange of knowledge. The three Vareth beings vibrated slightly, their crystal facets turning toward each other, communicating in some way the humans couldn't detect. Follow, Coordinator Lith finally said. Your presence must be discussed by the full council. They walked through corridors unlike any human design. The walls curved organically despite being made of crystal and metal. Gravity shifted subtly as they moved deeper into the station, suggesting advanced manipulation of physical forces. Other Vareth moved aside, their crystal bodies humming with what Peter whispered might be excitement or alarm. They entered a vast chamber. 9 Vareth sat in a semicircle on raised platforms. The central figure was larger than the others, its crystal structure more complex with veins of blue light running through its transparent body. Chief Architect, Coordinator Lith announced, I present the humans who have breached the forbidden boundary. The large central Vareth leaned forward, light pulsing within its crystalline form. I am Moral, Chief Architect of Outpost Sentinel. For 7 million cycles, no living being has crossed the boundary. Explain how you achieved this impossible feat. Dr. Wright stepped forward when Eliza nodded her permission. We developed technology called the phase shift drive. It allows our ship to partially exist outside normal spacetime, letting us pass through energy barriers. The Vareth Council members vibrated rapidly, their crystal bodies creating a sound like chimes in the wind. Impossible, one said. The boundary was designed by the elder races to be permanent and impenetrable. With respect, Eliza replied, we did cross it. Our ship is damaged, but we succeeded. Chief Architect Moral's lights pulsed slowly. Show us your phase shift technology. I will need my chief engineer and physicist to explain properly, Eliza said. Bring them, Moral agreed. An hour later, Chief Engineer Samantha Kelly and Dr. Alan Rodriguez stood before the council, projecting holographic diagrams of the phase shift drive. The quantum field generators create a bubble where matter exists in multiple states simultaneously, Rodriguez explained. Traditional energy barriers can't affect something that isn't fully present in normal space. The Vareth studied the diagrams with growing agitation, their crystal bodies flashing with internal lights. This technology, Chief Architect Moral finally said, resembles ancient designs from the Elder Archives, designs we believed lost forever. You've seen this before? Rodriguez asked, surprised. Not in 7 million cycles, Moral replied. Not since before the Great Purge. Eliza sensed they had stumbled onto something important. What is the Great Purge? And who are the Elder Races? The Vareth Council members communicated among themselves in rapid mathematical bursts that the translator couldn't process. Finally, Chief Architect Moral stood. Your arrival forces a decision long delayed. You must be shown the archives. Only then will you understand the gravity of crossing the boundary. They were led deeper into the station, down levels that seemed increasingly ancient. The technology around them changed, becoming both more advanced and visibly older. Finally, they entered a spherical chamber whose walls were covered in crystal memory cores. The historical archives, Coordinator Lith explained. Records saved when our ancestors fled here during the final days of the Elder Civilization. Chief, Architect Moral approached a central console. Before showing these records, I must ask, does your galaxy know war? Yes, Eliza replied honestly. But we also know peace. Earth has united with other species in cooperative alliance. Then perhaps there is hope, Moral said, activating the console. The room darkened, and holographic images filled the air around them. They showed vast galaxies, hundreds of inhabited worlds and species of all forms. some vaguely humanoid, others completely alien, including some resembling the crystalline Vareth. 10 million cycles ago, Morale narrated, multiple galaxies were connected in the elder civilization. Travel between them was common. Knowledge and culture flowed freely. The images shifted, showing massive ships and stations that dwarfed even the current Vareth outpost. But in the depths between galaxies, something was discovered. The hologram showed a region of absolute darkness. The Voidborn, ancient beings that fed on energy, on life itself. The elder races awakened them during exploration. The images turned violent. Worlds consumed by darkness, stars dimming, entire systems vanishing. War came, Morale continued. The elder races fought for generations but could not defeat the Voidborn. They were too numerous, too powerful, too hungry. The humans watched in silence as the holograms showed the war spreading across galaxies. Species after species vanished. Stars went dark. In desperation, the last Elder Council created the Boundary, a galactic shield to protect one final galaxy, your Milky Way, while they made their last stand. The hologram showed the construction of a massive energy field encircling an entire galaxy. Our ancestors were sent through before the Boundary was sealed, tasked with guarding this outpost, watching for signs of the Voidborn's return. The elder races themselves remained outside, fighting to the last, sacrificing themselves to buy time for the younger races within the protected galaxy to develop. The hologram ended with a final image, the completed barrier surrounded by darkness, with tiny points of light representing the Vareth outposts scattered beyond it. For 7 million cycles, Chief Architect Morale said, we have maintained our watch. The Voidborn were driven back but never truly defeated. They hibernate in the spaces between galaxies, awakening occasionally to feed, then returning to slumber. A terrible silence fell over the room as the humans absorbed this information. The Boundary, Captain Winters said slowly, wasn't built to keep the Milky Way species in. It was built to keep the Voidborn out, Merrill finished. And now you have pierced it. We didn't know, Eliza whispered. Of course not, Chief Architect Morale said. The knowledge was deliberately hidden. If species within knew the truth, they would attempt exactly what you have done, find a way through. Can the barrier be repaired? Dr. Rodriguez asked. Perhaps with your phase shift technology, Morale answered. But first we must determine if your passage was detected. The chief architect activated another console. A three-dimensional map appeared, showing neighboring galaxies and the vast emptiness between them. Small lights blinked at various points, Vareth outposts similar to this one. We maintain a detection network, Coordinator Lith explained, looking for signs of Voidborn activity. As they watched, an alert appeared on the map, a blinking red warning at the edge of a distant galaxy. No, Morale whispered, crystal body, dimming with what seemed like dread. After all this time, what is it? Eliza asked, though she feared she already knew. Movement, Morale said. In the void between galaxies, something is awakening, something large, and it is moving, toward the breach you created in the Boundary. The humans looked at each other in horror. Their breakthrough, their historic achievement, crossing the galactic barrier, might have awakened an ancient evil that had once nearly destroyed all life across multiple galaxies. What can we do? Eliza asked, her voice firm despite her fear. Chief Architect Morale turned to face her, crystal form glowing with new intensity. Your ship must be repaired. The phase shift technology might be our only hope. And you, humans, with your ability to do what was thought impossible, perhaps you represent exactly what was needed. Needed for what? Dr. Wright asked. To end what the elder races could only contain, Morale answered. To finally defeat the Voidborn. The repair efforts on the USS Horizon proceeded faster than Captain Eliza Winters had dared hope. The Vareth provided materials and technical expertise that astonished even the most experienced human engineers. What would have taken months in Earth's best shipyards was being accomplished in days. The crystalline composites they use are incredible, Chief Engineer Samantha Kelly explained as she led Eliza through engineering. The once destroyed phase shift drive now hummed with new energy. They're rebuilding our systems better than they were before. Can we trust their modifications? Eliza asked quietly. Dr. Rodriguez and I verify everything, Samantha assured her. But honestly, Captain, their technology is centuries beyond ours. They could have destroyed us already if that was their intention. Eliza nodded. The Vareth had been nothing but helpful since the revelation about the Voidborn. Perhaps too helpful. She couldn't shake the feeling that the crystalline beings weren't telling them everything. In the station's command center, First Officer Marcus Powell studied the long-range sensor displays with Coordinator Lith. Red warning indicators had multiplied across the map. The movement is accelerating, the Vareth explained, crystal body pulsing with concern. Something large is definitely approaching the breach point. How much time do we have? Marcus asked. At current speed, 14 of your Earth days until it reaches the barrier breach, Marcus frowned. And once it arrives? If it senses the weakened barrier, it could force its way through. If even one Voidborn enters your galaxy. Coordinator Lith's crystal form dimmed. The cycle of destruction would begin again. On another level of the station, Dr. Kevin Wright worked alongside Vareth scientists, studying biological data about the Voidborn from ancient records. They're unlike any life form I've ever encountered, he told Dr. Rodriguez as they reviewed holographic models. Not organic, not mechanical, but something in between. They exist partially in normal space and partially in something else. Like our phase shift technology, Rodriguez realized. That's why they're interested in it. Exactly, Kevin agreed. The elder races developed similar technology to fight the Voidborn, but it was lost in the final battles. Not lost. A new voice said. Chief Architect Morale entered the laboratory, crystal body glowing intensely. Hidden. Follow me. The two humans exchanged glances before following the Vareth leader. They descended to a level of the station they hadn't seen before, where the technology appeared even more ancient. Finally, they entered a sealed chamber that opened to Morale's touch. Inside stood a device similar to the Horizon's phase shift drive, but far more complex. Ancient writing covered its surface, and despite its obvious age, it hummed with latent power. The nullifier, Morale explained. The last weapon created by the elder races before they fell. It was designed to shift the Voidborn entirely out of our reality. Did it work? Rodriguez asked, circling the device with professional curiosity. It was never deployed at full capacity, Morale answered. The elder races were overrun before final testing was complete. One prototype was sent with our ancestors to this outpost, to be preserved until needed. Until now, Kevin whispered. Meanwhile, in a different section of the station, Security Chief Lisa Bennett watched the Vareth with suspicious eyes. While Captain Winters talked strategy with the Vareth Council, Lisa had quietly explored the station with a small security team. There's something odd about Level 17, she reported during a private meeting with the captain and first officer in their secured quarters. The Vareth avoid it completely. When I asked about it, they changed the subject. Could be culturally sensitive, Marcus suggested. Religious area? Or they're hiding something, Lisa countered. Permission to investigate further, Captain? Eliza considered the request. They needed the Vareth's help, but blind trust would be foolish. Granted. Take Officer Hoffman with you. His translator might pick up on things we'd miss. Be discreet. Hours later, Lisa and Peter slipped through the less traveled corridors of Level 17. The lighting was dimmer here, and the crystal architecture gave way to more metallic structures. The translator's picking up unusual signal patterns, Peter whispered, checking his device. Not standard Vareth communication. They turned a corner and froze. Before them stretched a vast chamber filled with stasis pods. Inside each transparent container floated what appeared to be Vareth bodies, but different. Darker, with angry red light pulsing through their crystal forms. What is this? Lisa breathed, hand moving to her weapon. Peter adjusted his translator, capturing the signals emanating from the pods. Not Vareth, he said, face paling. The patterns are completely different. more chaotic. Before they could retreat, a voice spoke behind them. "You should not be here." Coordinator Lith stood blocking their exit, flanked by two larger Vareth guards. "What are these beings?" Lisa asked, not backing down despite being outnumbered. "The infected," Lith answered after a pause. "Vareth who encountered Voidborn scouts, they were changed." "You're keeping them prisoner," Peter observed. "We are keeping them contained," Lith corrected. "The infection spreads. It cannot be cured, only contained." "Does Captain Winters know about this?" Lisa demanded. "She will now," said Lith. "The Council had hoped to spare you this knowledge until your ship was repaired." Back in the Council chamber, Eliza listened with growing concern as Lith explained the true nature of the Voidborn threat. "They do not simply destroy the Vareth," Coordinator explained. "They corrupt, transform. Any life form they touch becomes an extension of their consciousness, a new Voidborn." "Like a virus," Dr. Wright suggested. "An accurate comparison," Chief Architect Morale agreed. "The infected Vareth you discovered were members of an outpost that detected Voidborn activity 3,000 cycles ago. They attempted to investigate, rather than simply observe. Only these few returned and they were changed. And now something much larger is heading for the barrier breach we created," Eliza said grimly. Morale's crystal form pulsed with solemn light. "Yes, we believe it is a sovereign, one of the original Voidborn. If it penetrates the barrier, it could corrupt countless beings in your galaxy before anyone realized the danger." "Then we need to stop it before it reaches the barrier," Eliza decided. "Can the horizon be ready in time?" "The repairs are nearly complete," Samantha Kelly confirmed. "But Captain, even with the Vareth improvements, we'd be no match for something that destroyed entire civilizations." "We would not be fighting alone," Morale said. "The Vareth have maintained a small defense fleet, and we have the nullifier." "Ancient weapon," Dr. Rodriguez nodded, "but it's never been successfully tested." "Because it needed something the elder races didn't have," Morale replied. "Your phase shift technology completes the design. Together, they could create a field large enough to shift the sovereign Voidborn completely out of our reality, or it could fail catastrophically and destroy us all," Marcus pointed out. Eliza stood at the viewport looking out at the unfamiliar stars beyond the station. Somewhere out there in the darkness, an ancient enemy was moving toward them, toward her home galaxy, because of her decision to cross the barrier. "We need to integrate the nullifier with our ship," she decided, "and we need to leave immediately to intercept this sovereign before it gets any closer to the barrier." "The humans volunteer to carry the nullifier?" Chief Architect Morale asked, crystal form brightening with what seemed like surprise or respect. "We broke it, we fix it," Eliza said simply. "This threat is moving because of our actions. It's our responsibility to stop it." The Vareth Council members vibrated with their chime-like communication before Morale spoke again. "Then it will be done. The nullifier will be prepared for transport to your vessel. Our defense ships will accompany you." As the humans returned to the horizon to prepare, Dr. Wright pulled Eliza aside. "Captain, there's something else. Something I found in the Vareth genetic records." "What is it, Doctor?" "Their crystal structure contains certain molecular patterns that are remarkably similar to fossilized samples found on Earth. Samples dated to over 7 million years ago." Eliza stared at him. "Are you saying the Vareth have been to Earth before?" "I'm saying, Captain, that some of them might have stayed." Kevin's eyes were wide with the implications. "We might be looking at distant relatives." As the crew prepared for their desperate mission into the void between galaxies, this new revelation added another layer to an already complex situation. Not only had humanity broken through a barrier no one was meant to cross, they might have ancient connections to the very beings who had created it in the first place. The USS Horizon moved through the darkness between galaxies, flanked by 3 Vareth crystal ships. Their destination, a region of empty space where the sensors had detected the approaching sovereign Voidborn. The ancient weapon called the Nullifier now sat in the Horizon's cargo bay, connected to the ship's phase shift drive with a complex web of cables and energy conduits. "How's our integration looking?" Captain Eliza Winters asked, standing in engineering where Dr. Alan Rodriguez and Samantha Kelly worked alongside Verith technicians. "Strange but promising," Samantha replied, not looking up from her calculations. "The nullifier responds to our phase shift technology like they were designed to work together." "Perhaps they were," said a crystalline voice. Coordinator Lith stood nearby, his transparent body reflecting the blue glow of the drive. "The elder races may have hidden knowledge of the complete system in separate galaxies as a safeguard, hiding pieces of a weapon across different galaxies." Eliza shook her head. "That's thinking on a scale we can barely comprehend." "The Void-born think on such scales," Lith replied simply. "The elder races had to match them." On the bridge, first, Officer Marcus Powell studied the long-range sensor data. 6 hours to intercept," he reported when Eliza returned. "The Sovereign is maintaining steady speed toward the barrier breach." "What do we know about its capabilities?" she asked. Security. Chief Lisa Bennett brought up a holographic display based on Verith records. According to their ancient data, a Sovereign-class Voidborn is approximately the size of Earth's moon, but has no fixed physical form. It exists partially in normal space and partially in somewhere else. "Like our phase shift," Dr. Wright added, "but permanent and natural for them." "Can we communicate with it?" Eliza asked. "Try to explain that we mean no harm?" Peter Hoffman shook his head. "The Verith have tried for millions of years. The Voidborn don't communicate. They consume. They're not malicious in any way we understand. They simply feed on energy, and life is the richest energy source available." The hours passed tensely as the small fleet approached the intercept point. In her quarters, Eliza recorded what might be her final log entry. Captain's log, USS Horizon. "We're about to attempt something that even the most advanced civilizations of the past couldn't accomplish, stopping a sovereign Voidborn. If we fail, the creature will reach the barrier breach we created. If it passes through to the Milky Way, billions of lives could be lost before anyone realizes the danger. Whatever happens next, I want the record to show that this crew has performed with extraordinary courage and skill. The responsibility for our situation is mine alone. The decision to cross the barrier was mine. Whatever the outcome, let that be remembered." She closed the log and touched the small earth pendant she wore around her neck, a gift from her father when she graduated from the academy. So far from home, about to face an unimaginable threat, she allowed herself one moment of doubt. Then, she straightened her uniform and returned to the bridge. 1 hour to intercept, Marcus reported. The Verith ships have taken formation positions. "All stations, report readiness," Eliza ordered, settling into her command chair. The responses came quickly. Weapons, shields, phase shift drive, navigation, all systems were as ready as they could be. The nullifier drew massive power but was functioning within parameters. "I'm detecting something ahead," Communications Officer Natalie Grant suddenly announced. "It's interfering with our sensors." On the main view screen, space itself seemed to ripple and distort. Stars blinked out, replaced by a spreading darkness that was somehow deeper than the normal black of space. "That's it," Peter whispered, staring at the readings from his linguistics station. "It's not communicating in any way I can detect, just hunger." The darkness grew larger on the screen, forming a shape like a massive cloud with tendrils reaching outward. The sensors struggled to define its boundaries. "The Verith ships are signaling," Natalie reported. "They're moving into attack positions." "Follow their lead," Eliza ordered, "but hold position for nullifier deployment. We only get one shot at this." The 3 crystal ships spread out, firing energy weapons at the approaching darkness. Their beams seemed to bend and distort as they entered the Voidborn's influence. The creature showed no reaction except to send tendrils stretching toward the closest ship. "Nullifier power at 90%, Samantha reported from engineering. "We need to get closer for maximum effect." "Take us in," Eliza ordered. "Full, power to shields." The horizon moved forward while the Vareth ships continued their attack, distracting the massive entity. As they drew closer, the ship began to shudder. Hull integrity dropping, Lisa warned. Something's pulling at our molecular structure. It's trying to feed, Dr. Wright explained, his voice tense. Breaking down our matter to absorb our energy. Nullifier. At full power, Samantha called over the comm. Ready to activate on your command. A violent shudder ran through the ship as one of the Voidborn's tendrils made contact with their shields. Alarms blared across the bridge. Shield failure in 30 seconds, Marcus warned. Activate nullifier now, Eliza ordered. Dr. Rodriguez initiated the sequence from engineering. The combined power of the ancient weapon and the phase shift drive created a new kind of energy field, one that expanded rapidly from the horizon in pulsing waves of blue-white light. Where the field touched the darkness of the Voidborn, a strange reaction occurred. The creature seemed to flicker, its substance partially disappearing and then returning. It withdrew its tendrils from the horizon, seeming to recoil. It's working, Rodriguez reported excitedly. The field is forcing it to fully phase into our reality, making it vulnerable. Push harder, Eliza ordered. Maximum power to the nullifier. The phase shift drive screamed with strain as it channeled more energy than it was designed to handle. The blue-white field expanded further, enveloping more of the massive entity. Then something unexpected happened. The Voidborn's darkness began to change, developing patterns of light within it, complex swirling structures like galaxies in miniature. It's responding, Peter said in awe, studying his readings. There's a pattern emerging, not random. It might be communication? Can you interpret it? Eliza asked. Trying, Peter replied, fingers flying over his console. It's like nothing I've ever seen, but there's definitely information being transmitted. Before he could say more, the Voidborn surged forward, engulfing the horizon entirely in its darkness. The shields failed completely. The lights on the bridge flickered and died. But instead of the destruction they expected, the crew found themselves surrounded by a strange, peaceful silence. Through the viewports they could see stars, but not the stars they knew. Different patterns, different colors. What's happening? Marcus whispered. On every screen of the ship, the same pattern appeared. Complex, mathematical equations that Peter recognized immediately. It's talking to us, he said, in the language of the elder races. As the translator worked, words began to form on the screen. Why have you awakened us? The time of harvest is not yet come. Eliza stepped forward. We didn't mean to wake you. We were exploring and damaged the barrier by accident. The response came quickly. Curiosity, exploration, concepts we once knew before hunger. Dr. Wright moved to Eliza's side. It's sentient. The Voidborn aren't just predators, they're intelligent. Can we negotiate with you? Eliza asked. Find a way to coexist without destruction? A long pause followed before the next message appeared. We were like you once. Before the void changed us, now we must feed or die. The nullifier, Dr. Rodriguez said suddenly. It wasn't a weapon, it was a communication device. The elder races weren't trying to destroy the Voidborn. They were trying to talk to them. Understanding dawned on Eliza's face. They were looking for a peaceful solution. A new message appeared. Your phase technology, similar to our existence, you understand the between spaces. Perhaps possibility exists. The darkness around the ship began to recede. The horizon systems came back. Online, through the view screen, they could see the massive form of the sovereign Voidborn moving away from them, back toward the depths between galaxies. A final message appeared. We will return to sleep. Repair your barrier. When you are ready to speak, again, use the nullifier to call. Perhaps your kind can find what the elders could not, a way to end our hunger. As the Voidborn disappeared into the darkness, the Vareth ships approached cautiously. Coordinator Lith's voice came over the comm. Impossible. You communicated with it? In 7 million cycles, no one has ever... We didn't destroy it, Eliza said, but we bought time. It's returning to hibernation. And gave us a mission, Dr. Wright added, to find a cure for their condition. As the small fleet turned back toward the Vareth station, the crew of the Horizon looked at each other with new understanding. They had crossed the galactic barrier seeking discovery and faced a threat older than human civilization. But in true human fashion, they had found a third option where others saw only conflict or surrender. They would repair the barrier and return to Earth with their knowledge. And someday, when humanity was ready, they would cross the barrier again, not just as explorers but as healers, seeking to cure an ancient hunger in the darkness between the stars.